A very warm welcome, everyone. My name is Michelle de Klerk. I'm the founder of the Women's Chapter. And today I am very honored to be talking to one of our members, Natalie Montagnani, who is a brand specialist. We're going to be talking about all things branding, what that means, but also getting a bit of a deep dive into Natalie's journey and how she came to be running her business. So Natalie, a very warm welcome. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Good morning. Thank you so much for inviting me. This is fabulous.
I know I love these chats because it also means that I get an opportunity to kind of really ask stories about your business journey, how you came to be here. And it gives people an opportunity to really understand a little bit more about you and the person behind the brand, because at the Women's Chapter, we are very passionate about telling the stories of women in business and female founders and getting them to kind of lift their heads up, because most of the time we've got our heads down working really hard to tell people a little bit more about themselves and I think also to take some credit for all of their incredible accomplishments.
Exactly. So. But every woman, haven't you found that every woman has an amazing story? Every single one of them.
Absolutely. And a lot of the time, most people don't even realize how amazing their stories are. You know, I think there's that quote, you never know who you're inspiring. Yeah. And I think that's so true with all of the women within our community. And that's one of the reasons that, the Women's Chapter was born, was because I was so inspired by all of these incredible women who didn't realize how absolutely incredible they were. Yeah. So, and you are one of them. So thank you so much for being part of our community. I would like to give you an opportunity to tell everyone a little bit about yourself, about your business, and I guess your point of difference. So kind of what should people come to you for?
Yeah, so business and brand strategy. I mean, so I love to plan. I love a good strategy. I know, how valuable they are. And I just love helping. Certainly, I love working with women. I don't exclude men, but I love working with women. And I just love helping them just get a plan for success. So many of us don't take the time to stop, get a strategy, know where we're going, how we're going to get there. But it's so important to take that time. And it's the only way that you're going to get rid of overwhelm and, going around in circles and procrastination. And when you've got a good strategy, it just gives you that focus, and then you can start to build momentum. So I just love helping people sort of get out of the mud, the business mud that you can often find yourself in, especially if your business has very much grown on an organic basis. And then it gets to a certain point where you're maybe getting premises and employing staff, and then you need much more clarity.
And so in terms of your career path, I mean, what have you done before this? Because this is the part that I always love. Like, what led you to be working in the field that you're working in now?
Okay, well, I started off in corporate, and I worked for a very exciting health and beauty PR agency and a few other lovely international businesses with lovely big marketing budgets. And I hated it. I absolutely hated it, because you kind of have this, like, in the movies, and Working Girl was like the most inspirational movie to me as a little girl. And I just thought, once you've kind of made it and you've got that job, then everything's going to be perfect. Life's going to be amazing. And of course, you go into corporate, and not all corporates, obviously, but certainly the ones I worked in, and we're talking about 20 something years ago, it just wasn't a nice environment. You were worked to the bone. You were passed over for promotion if someone else was more favored by a director or something like that. When I was agency side, it was I just didn't enjoy the experience at all. It had all the glitz and glamour. But the people that I worked with were often demotivated and miserable. And I'm a high vibe person, and I just want to be happy, right? I just want a life of happiness. I do not want to be, going into an office every day and everyone's like, and just moaning about the boss, and like, no, this is not what I signed up for. This is not the life I want. And so I only had a career in corporate for, I think it was 6 years. And then at 27, I was like, I am done. I'm going freelance. I'd been working like on the side, doing a side hustle for a couple of years. So I knew there was a demand for what I did. And it was actually, they closed. So I lived in Brighton at the time, and the company I was working for were closing the Brighton office, and they were like, you can come and work from our Richmond head office. And I was like, I am not doing that every day. That is too much like hard work.
Right into Richmond.
I was like, this is my opportunity to go freelance and just, you know, have that flexibility, freedom, and not work under strict lighting anymore. So that is the reason. It was brilliant.
And was it a shock for you to move from, I guess, the sort of, because with corporate, we often don't realize when we're in it that you do have this cushion, right? Your salary lands in your bank account every month.
Yeah.
And yes, you may be miserable, you may not enjoy it every day, but you do have that kind of security, right? Whereas when you go freelance, suddenly everything is down to you. And as your business grows, there's all of the considerations. You know, you are accounting, you are HR, you are design even sometimes, or you are at least expected to lead that and have a vision around that. So I think for so many people, that can be an incredibly overwhelming step to take. It's, you know, you take it, but then suddenly when you're in it, you're like, oh, wow, I didn't realize.
I had no idea what was coming. Like, no idea. And, you know, it's a good thing sometimes to not know. It's a bit like having children. It's good to not know what lays ahead of you, because you wouldn't do it, right? You just wouldn't.
Yeah.
So I just saw the opportunity rather than thinking about what might not be so good. And the thing is, I was earning really bad money compared to what, you know, the value that I was giving. Certainly one of my last job, we were an agency, a marketing agency, and I saw one day that I was being charged out. I mean, this is a long time ago, but I was being charged out something like $1,000 a day. And I was not earning anywhere near that. And when I thought, wait a minute, I'm taking home like, what was it, like $2,000 a month or something? And it's just like, I don't like this disconnect. And also my boss, he loved taking me out to pitch because I could always connect really well with clients. So we'd always win the pitch if he took me. Yeah. And no bonus for that, no nothing. Like, I need to do this for myself. What am I doing this for someone else?
Good for you.
It was fantastic. And also I you know, we'd worked for some really big companies where, you know, they've got an in-house marketing team of say 50, and they're using agencies. And the work that you do is not really appreciated. It's a drop in the ocean because these are huge, huge companies. And when I went freelance, I really wanted to work with local businesses because you're working with the owner. It's more personal. It's their passion. And it was like, that just sounds to me like a much nicer life than what I'm doing now. Even though on paper it sounded so good and everyone thought I was mad, and my parents were like, what are you doing? You're giving up your security. And I know what I'm doing, I think. So, and it was an interesting time. I mean, you know, this is, what am I now? 44. So it's a few years ago. And the attitude back then was very different about freelancers, about women. You know, I go to networking events, it would be 99% men. I mean, luckily now you go to networking events, it's much more different. But I definitely had some incredible responses of kind of, what are you doing here? Go away. It was awful, really. Wow. There were definitely some challenges with going that route. But I actually joined a women's networking group back then. And that was fantastic because we were all supporting each other, and it was so brilliant. And some of the women in there, they'd done so well. There was a woman who'd set up this joinery company, and she was so successful, and it really like egged me on to like keep going and overcome all those barriers.
I love that so many of the people I speak to have positive women's network stories to tell, because, you know, that's how my whole journey started as well. And I know there's always so much negativity around that still, but there's definitely a place for it. And you know, particularly when you are making a shift or you're doing something new, you just need the support of, like-minded people around you who, and to have a safe space. And I think this is, not exclusive to women. I think, men benefit from that too.
Yeah.
So just having people around you that you can trust and use as a sounding board, and nobody is kind of waiting to shoot you down.
No.
So that's wonderful to hear.
Yeah.
So let's talk about branding.
Okay.
What is branding? Because I think so many people have their own kind of perception of what branding means. So can you kind of demystify that for us a little?
Well, I actually heard recently a statement that I think really sums it up beautifully. And it's branding is the why, marketing is the how.
Okay.
Branding is the why, marketing is the how. So the reason I actually chose to niche down onto branding specifically is because that's where the power is. It's literally like the heart of your business. So you've got your internal branding, then you've got your external branding. And obviously most people just think about the external. They think about your logo and your website and all of those things and how you look and how you sound on social media. But actually the real, like the where the power really is on the internal stuff. And that's the why you're doing what you're doing, who you're trying to serve, all of that internal work, vision, mission, purpose, all of that stuff. And now I know that if I work with clients on that, then giving them a marketing strategy, it will just work. It will be amazing. But what I was finding in my agencies was you can give people the strategy, but if the foundations aren't there, it's not going to work as well. And and that can bring up a whole other, bunch of problems. I'm NLP trained, and having worked with literally hundreds of businesses and hundreds of founders, it's the mindset of the business owner often that either makes a business successful or fail. So I love working with someone on them as much as their business, because we're all one. I remember my first boss, she wasn't exactly the most intuitive person. And she said to me, it's not personal, it's business. And I always remember thinking at the time, but it's personal to me. You can't detach one from the other. And that's very much where marketing has gone, is that people are becoming much more aware of that human connection, the emotional side. You're not just selling to someone like they did in the 80s and just bamboozling them and kind of almost hypnotizing them into buying, because then you get buyer's remorse and then it affects your brand. What you actually want to do is create that connection with clients. With your staff as well. Let's not forget your internal employees, because they're so important to have on board and to be behind the brand and understand what the brand is and what it does. And then once you can connect truly and authentically with your clients, then they'll stay with you, right? I've got brands that I am loyal to no matter what. It's quite difficult for someone to come along and like steer me away. And that often the reason that we do connect to those brands is because of their passion, their mission, and all of those wonderful things. And so if you can have clarity on those, then it'll make, as I say, your marketing incredible.
It's so interesting, because I'm actually going through B Corp certification at the moment, and we're preparing our impact assessment, and so much of that process, I guess, focuses on the branding part. It's kind of what underpins your business. Who are you? Why are you here? What are you doing? And then it also, forces you to address your relationship with your customers, what you're doing for them, what impact you have on them, the same with your employees, all of those things. And it's for me as a process, it's been really interesting to kind of bring me back to why I began in the first place, because I think so easily, and I'm sure you hear this all the time, that you start from kind of a foundation, but then you get distracted by all sorts of things and you land up kind of departing from that. And and that can be lost in your messaging, and it can be lost in the way that you're putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, really valuable to have somebody to kind of push you to do that exercise.
Yeah.
All that.
It's something it's definitely an exercise that you need to take. And if you're not feeling good about your business, or you're not connecting with your clients, and your marketing isn't working, then go back to those basics, because things change as well. People change. And I've certainly come across a lot of business owners who I go and see, and they're just, oh my God, they're so unmotivated in their business because they've fallen out of love with it. And what the bit I get really excited about is actually getting them to get excited again. And it's okay, well, what can we change? You don't create a business and then just keep it as like this static thing. It should be growing and evolving. And I mean, look how much our world is changing, and so fast. So we have to evolve with it. So it's really good. I mean, I'd say certainly at least once a year to just go back. And you know what? Things might not change. It might be like, nope, that's still my mission. That's still what, you know, I want to head. This is still the services and products I want to offer. Or it might be like, oh, actually, you know what? I just don't think that's as relevant, or we've got a really good opportunity here, so let's go this way. And, you know, I definitely, for me, wanted to pivot in my business from just offering, as I say, the traditional like marketing services, because I could see just how essential the branding side was. And I really, really wanted to work with founders on, like I say, that mindset piece as well, which is integrated as well. So.
And how does personal brand fit into that kind of, or under that branding umbrella? Because I think so many people panic at the thought of personal brand, particularly those that don't want to have a profile. Or, I mean, how do you deal with that with your clients, and what would your advice be around personal brand?
So I think it's a tricky one, because if you're going to set up a personal brand, you've got to be comfortable in your own skin, because what you're promoting is you. And that can bring up a lot of problems. Certainly that I've seen for women. I'd say I've noticed that way more in women than men. And it's that, you know, getting visible is they find it uncomfortable. Perhaps they don't feel worthy to get the attention or get the clients. So it's really sort of looking at chatting to someone, and I can very quickly often just see what the limiting beliefs are, where it comes from, and have a conversation about, you know, where does that stem from? What's that thought? Oh, I can't be seen to do that. Or I don't want to go live because people from school will see me. And it's like, okay, well, do you really care if people from school see you? You know, anyone that cares about you will just be like championing you. So, but it can be difficult to do a personal brand, but you don't have to do a personal brand. You can set up a business brand if that suits your personality more, and you can have someone else that is the face of your business. So I've known plenty of businesses work that way. Or in fact, one client I have, an accountancy firm, when I started working with them, there was two directors. One was really outgoing, one was quite introverted. So it just makes sense that the one that's more outgoing takes over, leads the way, does the networking, you know, more the face of the business. So yeah, I mean, I think, but the power of a personal brand is amazing, though. If you can step into your story and really show up as who you are. And I love looking at people's personal brands, and the quirkier, the better. And, you know, especially when you look on like Instagram, you've got these like sort of mum entrepreneurs that, you know, it's like, I'm a hot mess. This is my brand. And it's just like, I love the fact they just own that. And it's like, okay, that's not what I'd want to like show up as. But I think if you find something that suits your personality and the way you want to be seen, then you know, you've got so much potential.
And is it important for us as business owners or for there to be a face of our business? Because my perception, and this is not founded on anything kind of theoretical at all, but some of those large businesses that have very inspirational women behind them, like the White Company, for example, I spent years not knowing that there was a woman behind that. And Chrissy does have a profile now, but a lot of the time you only find out about those women after they've left the businesses, like those kind of hero brands. And I do remember always hearing like Amanda Wakely's story, but obviously she had an eponymous brand, and the same with Nicole Fari, but there were lots of brands out there that were incredibly successful and had these amazing role models behind them, but you may not have been aware that there was a woman driving that. And I don't know, my perception is that that's changed a little bit, and that women are more willing to become the face of their business, and that's become an important part of how we market our businesses, is the storytelling piece. Am I right in thinking that?
It's huge. I mean, I don't know what the reason is that some of these women don't stand up and shout, but I would absolutely connect more with a brand if I knew that a woman was behind it. I mean, and if you look at people, I mean, say Elon Musk and Tesla. So I was reading the other day that he's got, 20 million followers or whatever it is on Instagram, and Tesla's got 2 million or something like that. It's like this incredible gap between the person behind the business and the actual business. So all the power is with the owner of the business. I mean, I grew up, one of the first brands I was obsessed with was Virgin. I mean, Richard Branson. I mean, he's been an incredible role model for entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And we did have Anita Roddick, obviously, with a Body Shop, but she was kind of the only one, or one of the few, certainly in England, that ended up by her brand. And I would love, love, love to see women just owning it a bit more, because, as I say, it's such an opportunity. And just think of all of the other girls, the young girls that they'd be inspiring if they can do that.
Absolutely. And wouldn't it be a wonderful position to be in if our daughters, well, young boys and girls, were looking to people like that as their role models, rather than some of the influencers we see on social media today, who are all business people in their own right, I guess. But it's there's a different story being told there.
As you say, I'd rather it was kind of a different kind of influencing, if you like.
So when you talk about branding and you working with the client, what is the first step that someone should be taking, a business owner or someone who's driving a business, when they're sort of embarking on this brand journey?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that 100%, the first thing is your vision. So what is your vision for your business or for your personal brand? So, and I love just doing, actually, when I hold workshops on this, just doing like a meditation and really just taking that time to really picture in your mind where you want to be in a few years' time. And I remember doing this. So do you know Action for Happiness?
No.
Oh, it's a lovely organization, and they have lots of local meetups around the UK. And I remember going to one about, 10 years ago. And there was a woman giving a talk on visualization and the power of visualization. And I just, quietened all my senses, and then this picture just so vividly came to me of where I wanted to be. And I was actually walking, I know the detail, right? I'm wearing a cream suit, like there's detail. I'm in New York and I'm walking onto a stage. And I could literally feel it. I could feel the heat of the lights. I could feel the audience, hear the audience chattering. And it was such an amazing and quite emotional experience, because I was literally connecting with like my unconscious mind and just seeing where would I love to be, what I love to be. And then I gave this talk, and I could just remember it was just really inspiring people. And that gave me such a good feeling. And that's absolutely that's part of that is my vision. That's my mission, is to, grow my brand and hopefully inspire certainly women and girls, and, write books, do a podcast, all the things. Once my toddlers let me have some time to myself.
No, well, I mean, for those that are listening to it, they might not know that you had a baby in the first lockdown.
I did. Yeah.
Second, so you've been juggling little ones, unprecedented times, and still continuing to grow your business, which I think is remarkable. So you give yourself a big hug.
I mean, I was literally like, sort of breastfeeding and trying to type on my laptop, and it was really lovely though, because it was a great time for me to pivot from having the agency, to pivot to doing the consulting and the coaching, and to really think about who I wanted to serve. So I'd been pre-babies, I'd been volunteering for the Sherry Blair Foundation and working with women emerging and developing countries. And that was so wonderful. And I really wanted to, when I made my pivot, to work with those that I really inspired me and that I could inspire. And so it was lovely to have that time, even though juggling the babies was hard. So yeah, I've got a 2- and 3-year-old, had them back to back, had the second one just as we went into the first lockdown. It was interesting.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I think if I had kind of homeschooling versus a 2- and 3-year-old, I'd be like,
I'd take homeschooling, definitely. It was brutal. But I remember just like, they're kicking off and having tantrums, and then I'd put on a podcast and just like save my sanity. It's nice to have something else to think about that was for me, because children are they take over everything. And that's wonderful, because as mums, we're there for them. That's what we do. But to have something for me and to be thinking about what I wanted was it was a lovely gift to myself, really.
Yeah. No, it's a beautiful way to frame it, because I was one of those people who was desperate to go back to work after having had kids for that exact reason, because my career and my work was so much a part of me and an important part of my life. And, obviously that's not the same for everyone, and everyone has a different journey. But I think, what you were just saying now totally resonates. I was like, couldn't wait. Admittedly, some of the time it was because I was sort of fantasize about getting in my car, driving down the road, and then getting into the back seat and going to sleep. And never actually getting to work. But I'd be like, oh, nice would that be?
So I used to think, this is a terrible thing to say, but I used to kind of wish, when things were really bad, it was really full on, and you know how hard it is. You've had twins. I feel like I've had twins. I haven't got twins, but I remember actually thinking at one point, I'd like to get a minor ailment that would involve me going into hospital for a few days, so I can just lay, so I can just sleep, because you're so tired. You're so, I mean, that is by far the hardest thing I've ever had to do, is be a mum. Oh my giddy aunt. It's brutal. It's so brutal. But we love it. But like I said earlier, you wouldn't do it if you knew going in just how hard it was going to be.
Well, do you know what? I think with most of the women I know, they would do it anyway, because they would think it wouldn't be like that for them. They were like, nah, I got this. It won't be like that for me.
Oh, yeah. No, the birthing, I'll just sneeze and out comes the baby. Yeah. And then they're just going to be angels and sleep from the day dark, It's like, no.
Okay, so I think what you were talking about now with this exercise of sort of visioning and really thinking or seeing yourself where you want to be, and I'm guessing that you have techniques that you use to help people get to that place if they aren't kind of automatically getting there. Because I think a lot of the time we have, and you mentioned limiting beliefs earlier, which is so important. And I actually, with one of our other members, Anna Lancaster, I did some hypnotherapy around that, and it was so interesting to see what came out in terms of the things that hold you back. And and even thinking about it now, like, it makes me feel like quite emotional. But we underestimate. And it's wonderful that you use all these techniques and you're trained to use, like NLP and that kind of thing, because everything is interlinked. The way we see ourselves, the way we think about money, the way we perceive our interactions with other people, or how we see ourselves interacting, all of those things contribute to how we show up, I guess, and what persona we have from a business perspective. So it's really interesting that you incorporate all of those practices.
You have to. I mean, so for me, self-development it's like an obsession. So when I was 30, so I had a fledgling business. I'd only been going a few years. I kind of, worked out a way to have to get myself a few clients. I think I had 3 clients, main clients, and I was, paying my mortgage. I was living on my own at the time. And I basically, like, my life fell apart. So we had the 2008 crash. 2 of my 3 clients cancelled. I had really bad health and I was diagnosed with ME, and I was having to walk in a wheelchair. And it was it was an awful time. I was 30 grand in debt and getting more and more into debt every month, literally living off my credit card. And it was a horrendous time. And the best thing that I did was actually just give up. I was like, a friend came around to see me, saw what a mess I was in, and said, why don't you just move home with your parents, rent this place out, and just reset.
Yeah.
And I did. And it was the best thing I did. I mean, no one wants to go home age 30 to your parents, but sometimes these things are necessary.
Yeah.
And so I went home, and someone recommended a course to me that was by a guy called Phil Parker. It's called The Lightning Process, and it uses NLP techniques to reset your mindset, basically. And it had amazing results for a few famous celebrities and that sort of thing. So I booked myself on this weekend, and that weekend literally changed my life, because one of the first exercises was to go away for the evening and just notice every time you have a negative thought. And I remember leaving this woman's house, going to the end of the road. And by the time I got to the end of the road, I'd said such horrible things to myself on my internal dialogue. And it was shocking. I was so shocked by what was going on, what my messaging was in my head. And I remember staying at a friend's house that night, and they came home with a copy of The Secret.
Oh yeah, love The Secret.
And weirdly, earlier in the day, the woman on the course had said, have you watched The Secret? And then he turns up with it that night. And I was like, what? This is incredible. So it felt very much like a destiny, kind of. And I watched The Secret, and I just burst out crying, because I realized how all of my programming had so from society, from my parents, from my family, that had told me about what success meant and what you should achieve by what time in your life. I was 30 and I'd ended a long relationship from my 20s. I hadn't been able to pay the mortgage. My business hadn't taken off as I'd needed it to. There were so many things that I'd failed on, or I thought I'd failed on. And it was just such a brilliant moment to actually realize that I could take control of my future, my destiny. I could make my life the way I want it. Do I want to have kids? Do I not want to have kids? Do I want to get married? Do I not want to get married? Whereas I'd always kind of thought, oh, well, this is what you do, right? And so because everyone in my family got married in their early 20s, I felt like I'd already failed on that one. And, and everyone asks you, don't they, when you're at that age, especially if you've got a partner, when are you going to get married? When are you going to have kids? And it's awful. I'll never, ever ask a woman ever, when are you getting married and when you're having kids? Because men don't do that to each other, right? They just don't.
well, because they don't care. No, I mean, it's really, those kinds of details. And I think because for us, there is, and I'm sure some men feel this as well, but I think definitely those social pressures and those milestones that we're expected to hit at certain points in our lives, they're ingrained in you from when you were a little girl, you know, and interesting, I was having a conversation. There's an amazing lady, Britta Fernandez-Schmidt, who used to be the executive director for Women International. And she wrote a book called Fears to Fierce. And Britt, you guys would hit it off because you both have such amazing energy. It would be like, Britta and I were, when her book first came out, we had this conversation, and we were both speaking about our sort of belief that there there are these rules that we all believe exist.
Yeah.
But when you actually ask yourself, if the good girl, which is what we're raised to be, right, asks herself, but who made up the rules? Like, who said?
Yeah.
You know, like if you actually question those, well, who said that I needed to follow a certain path and I had to be married by a certain age and I had to have children and that I had to do this and I had to be successful and I had to own a house and I had, you know, like when you ask yourself that question, but who said that?
Well, basically, Disney, every movie I've ever watched, like unfortunately, it is drummed into us from a really that this is the perfect life. This is what you need to do, and this is when you need to do it by. So I'm like mega inspired. Like there's that famous nun who started running marathons at like 80. And, you know, anyone that does anything that's a little bit rebellious, I'm like, I love you. I love you so much.
Yeah.
And Hey Publishing. She didn't set up her publishing house till I think she was in her 50s.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I love those stories.
In this world. I mean, she's an incredible woman.
Mm.
So going back to that time where I then watched The Secret, I went on that course, I did all, rejig my mindset, became so much more self-aware, which I just didn't even know was a thing. And I created my first vision board, and that was it. I was off. Within 3 months, I was out of my parents' house, got myself a gorgeous cottage in the country, which I'd always wanted, and I bought my first Porsche, and my business was going crazy. And it was just like, what the hell? And my health was getting better. That took a bit longer to sort out, but it was incredible. The turnaround was so fast, and it was just like, wow. And that's just a mindset shift. That's just mindset.
That's like one of those stories you like read about on Facebook where there's like a clickbait link to click.
Alive.
You can too.
Yeah. Actually, it literally, I mean, it does sound a bit like a kind of modern day crazy fairy tale, but it literally was that way. Wow. And then I did another vision board and got my husband, but that's another story.
But and I mean, would you put it down to the visualization process, that success? I mean, obviously a lot of it had to do with you, right? Because you can vision things, but you do also have to take action. So that 3-month period that you were talking about, I mean, how do you motivate your clients to take action once they've determined their vision? What are the next steps that they should take? Because it's it's one thing to kind of have your vision board up on your wall or whatever, but then how do we make it happen?
I know, right? And that is so true. I've known so many people to have the vision, but never actually go and get it or do anything to actually start going in the right direction. And it's like I remember one lady I spoke to, she had this vision to create like this health center of like amazing like meditation and yoga and all these fabulous things. And it was like, that's fantastic. Okay, so what are you doing? And she's like, well, I don't want to do social media. And there was all these like things that she was not prepared to do. And it's like, okay, well, that's probably not going to get you to where you want to be. And sadly, it never happened for her. And so you've got to have a vision and actually be prepared to do what it takes to get there.
Yeah.
And sometimes, often I'll just say to clients, look, let's keep things really simple, okay? We know where you want to go. Let's just create a 90-day plan for the initial steps that you're going to take. And then I try and, depending on the client, so some clients are amazing. I can give them a plan and they go off, and then I'm checking in with them a week later and they're like, oh, I've done it all. I'm like, wow, you're amazing. Yeah. And they have an incredible drive and they will get there. And then there's other clients that I need to kind of support a bit more and do the check-ins and just help them to overcome the barriers and hurdles. And but they can still get there. But if you're aware that you've got that sort of personality and you need that support, then definitely get an accountability partner or a coach or someone to just help you. But yeah, I mean, marketing, the thing that I find marketing really fun, and I think a lot of people they're really scared by it and they're like, oh, it's a horrible thing. So I think one of the things that I can really help people with is actually see that it's an opportunity, it's a fun thing. Let's see how this goes. Let's try this. And Yeah, it's just really how you look at it sometimes can make a big difference.
And in that 90-day plan, just so that those that are listening might have a flavor of what kinds of actions would be involved in 90. So when we're talking about the how, marketing and the how, they're taking action, what sorts of things might you include in a plan like that?
Yeah, so say, for example, you've got 90 days, choose 3 things, maximum of 3, like goals that will help you to get towards your vision. And then work backwards from those goals. So what you can literally do, you can just do a mind map and put the goal in the middle that you want to achieve, and then just do a mind map and think of all the elements that you're going to have to do to achieve that goal. And then just create an action list. Literally be like, right, okay, well, if I do that this week, and put it in your diary so you can't run away from it. You can't, and also actually just, you've got to hold yourself accountable to getting stuff done. If you keep moving it in your diary and moving it, you're not going to move the needle on your business. You're not going to move forward. And also just don't be afraid to invest in your business, get support, get someone doing your social media, or, helping you, get a VA or whatever it might be. If there's something that's distracting you from actually moving forward, then get help. There's so many amazing people out there. And so don't feel like you have to do everything yourself, because I don't know about you, but for example, I'm just about to do an AdWords campaign, an ad campaign, and I just want to kill myself if I go in and look at like setting up a campaign. It's like my brain goes, no, I do not want to do this. Don't make me do it. And so it's not my zone of genius. And so I have this amazing girl, Kaya, she loves it. It's her passion. She'll do it amazingly. Brilliant. So don't feel like you have to learn everything and do everything, because you really don't.
Yeah. That it's such a brilliant piece of advice, because yesterday on our LinkedIn Live, we were talking to 3 founders, and that was one of the key points that came out. Identify what you're good at. Yes. And most of us know.
Yes.
And then all of the other things that seem like a real chore in terms of your business, but are potentially holding it back from reaching the next point, outsource it. Find somebody else who loves doing that, or that, that particular task sets their heart on fire, because there's bound to be somebody. And that's the great thing about our community, and any community where you surround yourself with trusted people, is that you'll be able to get those recommendations and save yourself a lot of time and misery. Because I think the other kind of challenge that all business owners face is resourcing. And particularly at the moment, it seems to be quite difficult for people. I'm hearing that a lot from business owner friends. It's just really struggling with finding good talent and retaining it. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's such a good piece of advice, is that, and Natalie, I'm interested to know, if you're finding that you are not doing the things in your diary, or you keep procrastinating around them or whatever, does that mean you should be going back to the drawing board and addressing what could be holding you back from doing that?
Absolutely, yeah. Have a word with yourself. Myself on a regular basis. It's like, why am I avoiding this? What's going on? And just having a little chat. And some people do something called mirror work, where you sit in front of the mirror and actually have a conversation with yourself. Like, do whatever it takes. Wow. Or talk to a friend. Just say, look, I'm really not doing this, and I just don't get it. And then maybe they can help you work out what's holding you back. And and then you can actually, as you say, you can get hypnotherapy or get whatever you need to just work through something. Or it could be that you just don't have purpose. So if you're like getting out of the bed in the morning and just like, oh, it's another day, like bring on Friday, bring on the end of the year. Like if you're just wishing your life away, okay, you need to go back to your vision and like, what is your purpose? Are you living your purpose? Because I know that when I'm like, clarity on my purpose, I am just like, I don't want to sleep, because I'm just like, I just want to work on this because I love it so much. So you've got to make sure you're inspired as a founder, definitely.
And I'm interested to know, when you've been through this process with any of your clients, have you ever had somebody realize that they're not doing something that they love, or that they should be doing something else?
Yes. So I had a lovely photographer, and she was so lovely. She's such a nice lady. And I went and had this conversation with her, and she she needed to rebrand, because I mean, my goodness, photography is so competitive. There is so many people out there. And so she knew that, you know, her branding was dated. She needed to update it, get on social media and start doing more.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it meant doing new brochures or new whatever. And this poor woman just looks so defeated. And so I just said to her, I was like, do you really want to do this? And she looked at me and she was like, no, I want to go back to nursing. And that's what she did.
Oh, wow.
Here's Larry, went back to nursing, and yeah, it just wasn't right. I don't think we should ever look at stopping. Like, if you decide to go a different direction, if you decide to stop your business and maybe go back to employment, whatever it is, don't ever see it as failure. It's just the next chapter. It's just your next step. Again, it's like, don't feel that you have to, you know, achieve all the things. And also, for example, there's some women I meet that have a lifestyle business. And lifestyle businesses, people often get kind of like, oh, you've just got a lifestyle business. And it's like, yeah, she's working part-time. She's earning the money she wants to earn. She's seeing her children and living the life of her dreams. So what's wrong? That sounds pretty good to me, you know?
Yeah. Do you know, and that really, because I've heard that so many times, and it annoys me, because I think sometimes there's some snobbery that exists around entrepreneurship.
Massive. Yeah.
And this is also, it's a fundamental issue of how businesses fall through the gaps when it comes to funding and access to grants and support and all of those things, because you often need to be a certain size in order to qualify for those. Or you need to be prepared to take on investment and scale. And a lot of people who have lifestyle businesses don't want to do that, because the funding route is not for everybody. If you want a business that suits your lifestyle, you can make money, you can pay your bills, you've got some disposable income, you can have a bit of fun with it, then, you know, why should you then be made to feel that you're less than because you haven't embarked on a fast growth route or a scale up route? And I think, you know, we all need to be a little kinder to one another when it comes to this, because if you are contributing to the economy, which all of those people are doing, you are doing it in a way that suits you. You are valuable, you are worthy, and it's your choice. And we all need to be a little more supportive, I think, of each other when it comes to that, and one another's like, and isn't that the dream? Like you were just saying, you don't have to work for anybody else, you work for yourself, and you decide when you work and you still make money. Like,
amazing.
Great. Everybody wins.
Yeah. And money may not be the biggest motivator. I mean, I think in my 20s, I was all about the money. I was like, money, money, money. I think because I had none, you know, you're just like, when you haven't got it, it's like, and it's important that, you know, to have somewhere nice to live and to be able to buy yourself the things that you want to buy. And there's nothing wrong with money. I love, 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 love money. But, and I think, but as you get older, so in your 30s, your 40s, you start wanting a bit more from life than just that sort of transaction. You want to serve people, help people. And I find that a lot of women, that's a bigger driver than the, you know, oh, hit your 10K months or your, you know, become a 7-figure entrepreneur. What does that mean, really? Because, you know, it's not the money that inspires us, it's what you can do with it. So for example, you know, I was listening to a lovely entrepreneur the other day, and she was saying how it afforded her to take her kids to Disneyland. And that was a dream she'd always had, because they couldn't have afforded it. And she got her business to a certain point where they had the money, and that was huge to her. That was massive. And I think that's as big a win as someone saying, we've just done our, you know, we've got a 20 million turnover. Like, okay, great.
And that's the thing, different strokes for different folks, right? And I think, going back to what you were talking about failure, it's so important for us to reframe this idea of failure, because in business, certainly, you know, and this is a cliche, but it's so true. We don't fail, we learn. Yes. And we're always learning. And this whole journey that we're all on, our respective journeys that we're on, they are literally that. There is no final destination where you get to that point where you go, oh, like I've arrived. That's amazing. Because there's just a whole new level of work and mindset and strategy and all those things that kick in at these different levels, you know. So I love what you were saying about if you find yourself wishing your days away and your months away and your years away, then that you've got to have a conversation with yourself and figure out why you feel that way, because we spend so many hours of our lives working. There's no better reason than to kind of recalibrate and think, well, I'm going to spend that time doing something I love, even if that's something that doesn't, you know, result in your 7-figure turnover.
Yeah, I mean, it's you've got to enjoy the journey.
Totally.
The destination, you've got to enjoy the journey. And if you're thinking, oh, I'll be happy when I get this, that is definitely something you need to look at, because why would getting a certain thing or a certain accolade make you feel that you were successful? You know, you need to feel successful now. I find just anyone who has taken that leap to self-employment or setting up a business, I just think they're amazing. I mean, you are successful if you've just done that. That is incredible success. You know,
yes, absolutely.
Just really appreciate everything that you do, and like just give yourself like a little pat on the back, and not expecting more. And if you're going on Instagram or if you're going on social media and you're seeing other people and what they've achieved, and it's making you feel bad, like, oh my God, I haven't done that yet, I haven't got to there, just unfollow those people, right? Just, you don't need that.
Totally.
Just take a break, take some time and just work on what you're doing and where you're going. And I mean, I love jealousy, right? I think jealousy is an amazing, inspiring thing, because I think it's actually a positive emotion, because it often shows us something that we actually want, but maybe we've not been consciously aware of it being something we want. So that can actually inspire you to actually be like, you know what, I actually do want that. I really like to aspire to have that. And then you can bring that, you can incorporate that into your life, but don't like flood yourself with it and then just feel awful, because then you'll just be like, oh, I'm just useless, I'm just gonna give up, you know. And we can,
you know, it's so interesting actually, because I think many, and Instagram has obviously amplified this, right? And all social media channels, where we suddenly get an insight into what everybody else is doing, and you can completely fall down a hole, like when you start to, you know, and how many of us it's happened to, where you're on your phone and you're scrolling and then you realize an hour later that you're still doing that. And that there are, yes, and with that can be these kind of these thoughts of self-doubt. You're like, oh my God, they're doing so much, they're doing this, they're doing that, I'm not doing that, I'm not there, I should be doing this, I should be doing that. And I hear this so often in our community. But interestingly, I yesterday had a really refreshing email. One of our members referred somebody else to us who is a competitor business. And she said, I would love you to meet her. And she's a competitor of mine, but I love what she does, and I think she'd really benefit from our community. And we would love to talk to the community about how we're competitors, but we're still mates. Like, and we think there's enough room for everybody. And I think I say the table for everyone.
Yeah, and I often say there's no such thing as competition, only opportunities for collaboration. Because so often, you know, you might be in the same industry, you might do the same thing, but your ideal client may be different, you know, or whatever it might be. And I think there's so much opportunity. I mean, I've got a few clients that actually work together, and they're both marketing agencies, but they actually help support each other. And I just think that's fantastic. And also, but also I think, you know, for example, obviously you're running this amazing community and someone else is running an amazing community, but they still need support. And when you're in charge of something, sometimes it's nice to not be in charge.
Totally.
So I was running some local events, like networking events for women. And there was a competitor, totally not a competitor, but I went and joined their events, and I think they were like, oh God, is she coming to like steal our clients or something? And I was like, no, it's just nice for me to be here and not organizing it. You know, it's nice to actually take a load off and actually just be here as me, and for someone else to like have sorted out the venue and the catering. So I think that's brilliant.
Yeah. No, and I think it boils down to what we were speaking about, kind of brand and vision and purpose, because nobody can duplicate that. Everybody's personal brand or how they fit into their business, and how that's communicated through their channels and their marketing, their how is very much bespoke to them. No one can be you.
No.
And you were speaking right in the beginning about these, there's some brands that you've been loyal to for years, and you will always be. And it's that kind of stickiness that people underestimate, how their customers love them for all of the things that are unique to them. And that will mean they'll stay with you as opposed to going to some competitor brand. So
if someone chose to work with a competitor instead of with me, I'd be like, that's brilliant. You found a fit with that person.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Because I'm not for everyone. I literally, because I'm quite bubbly, quite outgoing. Some people, I can just feel them cringing. Like, I'm too much for those people. But then there's people that maybe want someone with a bit of energy to kind of G them up, that are attracted to me and like, can you help me like to, raise my game? And I'm like, yes, I'm your woman. And that's okay. So I think, you just got to be really, sometimes it's a good thing not to win a client. If you do a pitch for some business and you don't get it, it's because they're not right for you. You're not right for them. And that's okay. They'll go and find their good fit. And that's absolutely perfect.
Yeah. No, those are all such valuable pieces of advice. Thank you, Natalie. And we're almost at time. In fact, we've run over time, but I've so enjoyed having this conversation with you. I didn't want it to end.
I know. I could talk forever about this.
Is there anything that you would like to share with everyone before we end off today, about kind of whether it be branding or any advice that you have? And then obviously after that, please let us know how everyone should get in touch with you.
Sure. Well, I think we've kind of covered pretty much everything. But it's really, if you're struggling right now, and if you're feeling like you're not good enough, you're not achieving enough, you're not happy, you're not driven, then just go back to why you're doing what you're doing and get that vision for what you actually really want, or just become aware of what's holding you back and doing something to actually change that, because it's such an opportunity to have your own business. And I mean, you can be, do, or have anything you want. So just make sure you're not, wasting your life, and just make the most of it, because we're here such a short amount of time. Absolutely. And if anyone wants to get in touch, I'm on the usual channels, obviously on LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook. And so do just, luckily my name's quite distinctive, so I'm quite easy to find.
Well, it's been an absolute delight talking to you today. Thank you so much. I'm feeling really energized. And conversations like this just put such a spring in my step. And I have no doubt that anyone who's listened to us today will be feeling exactly the same way.
And they can obviously get in touch with me. I'm more than happy to have a discovery call with anyone and just see if we're a good fit, or if I can help you, or if I can give you some quick wins. Just get in touch.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Natalie. And for those that joined us live, if you came in halfway or part of the way through, this will be on the feed still, so you'll be able to go back and watch it from the beginning. But equally, it will be downloaded afterwards and added to the Women's Chapter website. All of our videos and the recordings are under the events tab on our website, so you can find this one will be there probably in the next day or so. So please do get in touch with Natalie. I'm so inspired. I think I need to do some brand work with you. And I have no doubt that actually everybody feels like this when they speak to them. We're like, oh my God, I need her to help me. Thank you so much for sharing so much of yourself today, your time, your expertise. It's incredibly appreciated. And I'm sure that everyone that's listened today has taken away some great tips and advice on just how to get started and some things to think about, because that's where it all starts, is kind of starting to consider what changes we need to make, and then only then figuring out how we go about making them. So thank you so much, Natalie.
Pleasure.
Bye.
Bye.